Hello, my name is Sabine McNeil. I published this petition on change.org on February 2nd after it had been made clear to the mother and her Mackenzie friend, who is a legal advisor, that the judge didn't have any intentions of returning her two children who had been taken by Barnet Council on 11th September in 2014. This story is the worst of all possible cases we have come across and you will ever come across, I hope. Because on one level it is typical that mothers who complain to the police about the abuse that their father does or has done to their children results in the mothers losing the children. On the other hand, this case is so horrendous in terms of 20 children being abused, at least 70 abusers are involved, and 8 schools are being used for this purpose. The two children are an 8-year-old boy and his 9-year-old sister, who have talked about it obviously in private to their mother and her partner while they were on holidays in Morocco last year. And the tragic is that their father threatened to kill them if they were ever to talk. So I published this petition and had as recipient addresses a number of officials and kept publishing updates, as you can see on these screenshots. So the number of supporters was growing very, very fast. After about a month, nearly 16,000 people had signed this petition. And when the legal team came on board, they asked me to start another one to support private prosecutions against some of the abusers and some of the authorities. And that had reached nearly 300 signatures. Well, then I found out that links had been removed. So I wrote to the help center of change.org, but they came up with some very non-helpful explanations until eventually both petitions were taken down. And the interesting explanation was they claimed that they had sent me an email, which they didn't, because they published a note on their help center, a notice. So I have to dream up thinking, oh, maybe I should check what's happening on my help center before I find out that the whole petition has been removed and can't be restored. And supposedly the reasons were the fact that court proceedings were going on. Well, it is indeed true that the court proceedings were going on, but I kept it secret. So this is the essence of this case, that the secrecy of these family courts is being used to cover up criminal activities, because the father and his 70-odd other alleged abusers are committing crimes of such a horrific nature, as the children have witnessed and have been experiencing themselves, that I feel I have gone through a kind of a gradual shock therapy, and every person who ever learns about this case and these children has to do the same. It is too shocking to imagine it, and therefore we can't believe it. Unless you happen to be somebody who knows already that satanic ritual abuse exists, that and how people engage in it, and what it entails. But I certainly didn't. Lead up to the judgment, which was supposed to be given on March 19th, but eventually was delivered on March 26th. By that time I had fled the UK, because one of the documents by Barnet Council announced that they would support a prosecution against me. Well, I did not want to take that risk, because I have seen what happens to people once they are taken into a police cell and in a prison cell. My most popular website is called Victims Unite, and I have accompanied many people on their journeys through a system that is very evil and very corrupt, I'm afraid. So, on 26th of January, the judgment of this case was handed down by Mrs. Justice Poufley, but it was published at the same time because she sent a press release which was picked up by the Daily Mail, the Telegraph and the Guardian. The judgment declared the father not guilty of any of the sexual abuse that had taken place, which had been evidenced by medical reports that supported story, which has been labeled also the Hampstead scandal, about the child abuse in 8 schools and I don't know exactly how many churches. It started with a penal order against the mother and myself issued on February 11th, which was when I left the country, when I heard of this, or rather my colleague alerted me to this penal order, because risking prison is not the best choice in the UK, I can assure you. 2 days later I got a phone call from Colindale police station, and then there were these court proceedings that had led to the situation that the mother and I are in now. So a friend of mine asked me, why are you in exile and can't go back to London? Well, in theory I could, but in practice I would be arrested, kept in a police cell, and even though my solicitor advises me to hand myself in, I just don't feel it's worth it. And I'd rather be sure to be free and not be rotting away in either a police cell or a prison cell, because the maximum is 5 years for the crime that we are supposed to have committed, that we are accused of, to have published information on the internet, which is a list of files of names and abusers, which neither the mother nor I have done. So the arrest warrant was supposedly issued by Barnet Police, but I am actually not 100% sure. It seems that they are bluffing their way through, because at some stage that it was said there was an EU arrest warrant, that it wasn't, but I do know that there was an Interpol notice, which then was mysteriously taken down again. But it is Barnet Police who are acting on behalf of the parents, whose name are mentioned, and teachers, and the father above all else. But Barnet Council have acted against us via the courts. So yes, the result so far is certainly that the abusers are perfectly free and are not in any way harassed, let alone before court, or are fleeing, whereas the mother and I are being accused and are being criminalized, and that is completely typical. I mean, the grounds for these arrest warrants, or the fact that we are just maybe wanted for discussion, are the supposed harassment of these people whose names have been published and circulated on the internet. So once again, I have not published those names. I doubt that Ella did that, the mother. I'm not. I can't be sure because. But I'm sure she wouldn't have done that, because she just hasn't been active on the net for a long time, until she gave recently an interview. This harassment act has been misused, in my view, because we know perfectly well that these people are all the abusers and the criminals. But then I've been told by a retired police constable that the whole judicial system is in favor of the perpetrators rather than the victims, and I have certainly seen a lot of evidence about that too. But as I mentioned before, these court proceedings had been going on since September, since the children were taken into care, and what was really supposed to be dealt with in court was who abused the children. That was always listed as the key issue. There was first a court case in the lower Barnet court, and then Judge Vera Meyer transferred the case to the High Court and Judge Paufli. And I expected the outcome to be the custody of the children, but the judgment was very, very different. The mother wants her children to be returned to at least herself, if not her grandparents, as an alternative. The evidence that the judge or the court used about the sexual abuse was very, very clear. Medical reports proved scarring in the anal areas of both children. But that was discredited and basically not taken seriously. In fact, a psychiatrist was hired to belittle the medical evidence. But the real evidence, in our view, is of course what the children say, but they have not been listened to. They, independently of each other, at different times over a few weeks in August and September, have talked about how they are being physically abused very regularly in school, in secret rooms, in churches, in office buildings, and they, as part of 20 so-called special children with plastic willies, and that when children scream too much they get injected, and the worst is presumably that they are also being taught and shown how to kill babies. So one of the articles that emerged from these videos was that we are dancing with the skulls, and the children describe in detail how their babies are being killed and how they are eating the meat and drinking the blood even. So we are talking about rape, torture, murder and cannibalism. The videos that we are talking about were about 20 of them, which are privately recorded, and then there were police interviews. Now, it is very peculiar that the judge could come to the conclusion that the allegations are baseless if one does look at these videos with an open mind and an open heart. So the reason why these videos would not have been used as proper evidence is because it was clear right from the beginning that this case needs to be suppressed and not be dealt with in a fair and honest and truthful way. The police videos consist of 2 separate interviews and then one where the children supposedly retracted their allegations. And these retractions are also so just unbelievable. It's clear that whoever had the children for 6 days coached them to say what they were then saying on video. And the girl reacted very, very differently from the boy, did a better job, if you like, at lying than the boy did. But in the end, Judge Paufli decided that all of the allegations were baseless, were just fantasies, and that the internet community consists of evil and or foolish people. So let's see where we evil and foolish people get to by exposing more and more and better, and by also appealing the judgment with a time limit of April 9th, and then we'll see how long it will take the courts to make a decision. Meanwhile, the mainstream media have published the judgment as if it was gospel, and a legal team has come together that will also consider private prosecutions. The schools and the church have reacted in the following ways. First of all, the website of the school was closed. Then it was quite clear that a lot of teachers were changed, and when demonstrations outside the church started, police was there to protect the church and its congregation, but photos have been found with blood on the church floor, and a teacher has been spotted on Facebook looking for a tattoo removal clinic, because amongst the extraordinary details that the children recorded were distinguishing marks of their abusers, tattoos and piercing and birthmarks and moles. So, since British law wasn't sufficient to help the mother and me, for that matter, I'm being asked now whether the EU Charter could maybe be used, since it is supposed to protect human rights and fundamental principles. Well, it so happens that I have already submitted a petition in Brussels to stop the adoption without parental consent, i.e. forced adoptions that have been happening in the UK for donkey's years. And in the vein of that experience, I submitted an emergency petition on behalf of the mother and the children, but I haven't had a response yet, and I'm not sure how to proceed exactly yet, but I am getting some supporters together to look at a case in the EU court in Luxembourg, while the legal team is looking at a judicial review that we filed in December. What have I done to inform the general public? Well, as much as possible, but only online. I did not do anything with respect to mainstream media, but after I fled to Germany, of course, I thought it would be good to get something together in German, and the result are at least these questions in German and this interview, or this video, based on screenshots that I recorded. But it is all terribly amateurish, since I hadn't used this screenshotting software before, but it was very valuable because the petition had been taken down, so I had at least this archived view completely by chance on this file, which I don't seem to be able to edit out and not even cut into two pieces and separate the petition from these German questions. But hopefully you find it interesting and revealing what I have to say, in addition to everything else that is already available. How we can be supported? Well, follow the blog whistleblowerkids.uk is the way of becoming more aware of what's going on. Then I have set up a meetup site, which is also called Whistleblower Kids. Meetup.com is there to organize events. The best way would be for people to organize local groups themselves, and spreading the word is the job. Of course, we would like to have a little bit of money to become a bit more effective on the legal and the internet level, but amateurs are fueled by love and there is enough scope for anybody also to provide support without money and to be creative in ways of spreading the word. Like one woman made a video asking questions to the judge, and another group called Hampstead Research has been producing videos with this particular software that I'm using now also about the abusers online. So there is a lot of scope, and this should become the end of my story, as I haven't even seen what it recorded at the time, which is rather peculiar to watch, but I might as well give you a little bit of a soundtrack for as long as this screenshotting keeps going, but I have no idea what on earth I did. You can see I was on YouTube, you could see I was on WordPress that I'm using to maintain whistleblowerkids.uk. There's this remarkable American programmer who started whistleblowerkids.com, and he would like to get some funding so that he can do the job full time eventually. But I guess there is not enough motivation yet for people to donate enough money, because we don't know enough about the badness of the situation. But I've just discovered an Australian researcher who has made incredible maps about what is actually happening. So now you can see everything I've done on my computer, and so you see my Outlook and my all my